Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back another video from Clyde. It's really nice to see Clyde back on the uploads. I do believe this is the first video he has uploaded that isn't drama related. What a weird time that was. What a strange time. But Clyde's back. We've got more Bleach videos, and I think this is a really, really interesting what if. So this is what if Ulquiorra went with Aizen. So I think what he's meaning is like when Aizen went to the fake Kasakura town and took like all the hollows with him, but left Ulquiorra and that other one behind. And what would have happened if he hadn't stayed at Hueco. Is that the one? I'm terrible with words and names, but words and names. But yeah, what if Ulquiorra went with Aizen and fought all the Shinigami? And I think it would have gone dead differently because Ulquiorra was so up there. I think it would have made a bit of a difference. But then again, Aizen did just like kill some of his own like guys. And so, but anyway, let's see what Clyde has to say. It's nice to see you back, man. It's nice to see you back. Makes sense. Makes sense. You'll see why once you finish the video. I reckon it
When
makes
the
sense.
concept of Vasto Lorde are first introduced into the story of Bleach, it's established that by Aizen being able to perfect the Arrancar, he may be able to erect an army that could potentially crush the world.
Oh yeah.
Hollows so powerful, they appear in a smaller, humanoid form, and become stronger as they remove their masks to gain Shinigami-esque powers, which are then upgraded by Aizen via the use of the Hogyoku.
Yeah, the Hogyoku.
Some dispute that Aizen upgraded all the Espada, though it's confirmed that even someone at Baragon's level was given power with the Hogyoku, and we know that their release forms and powers are much different than they were in the past. Coyote Stark did not have his guns in the past, and Ulquiorra appeared much differently in the backstory chapter, which was featured in the official Bleach data book, Unmasked.
Ooh, I've not seen this. Alright, cool.
Even their aspects of death correlate with their true powers, and many aspects of Aizen's personality that we see throughout his entire character arc. According to Toshiro Hitsugaya, if Aizen can acquire 10 of these Vasto Lorde class hollows, he will be able to crush the captains, subsequently taking down the Soul Society.
Soul Society's
with their
doomed.
demise.
So that's it.
Toshiro highlights that the Soul Society isn't aware of just how powerful these Vasto Lorde may be if they successfully remove their masks and are given upgrades by Aizen. Straight away, these Vasto Lorde, which would later be called the Espada, are all being hyped up to be captain class opponents, even before these upgrades by Aizen, with Renji and Toshiro implying that even fully released Fraction are a problem to them in battle, and stronger than they initially anticipated. Other Fraction and Priveron Espada are also showcased to be quite powerful, with Shuhei having a very competitive and intense fight with Findor, and Ichigo holifies to defeat Dordoni in one attack. I hope I'm saying that name right.
Yeah, like even the ones that aren't in the Espada are still pretty tough, like, yeah.
Even a smaller and weaker variation of Yami was able to pressure Toshiro Hitsugaya into his Bankai faster than Halibal did. And Yami states during his conversation with Ulquiorra that he isn't even in peak physical condition before facing Toshiro, as his arm hasn't healed correctly. And this is a Toshiro who isn't even using Gentei Kaijo, which makes Yami look even better. As the series continues, the captains seem to then contradict this narrative that these Vasto Lordes are comparable to captain level, and if Aizen can amass enough of them, they are doomed by default. The reason they contradict this narrative is by pretty much dealing with all the Espada with relative ease for the most part, or in some cases, give them a very difficult fight in battles where they outnumber the Espada they are fighting.
Okay.
What ends up happening near the end of this arc is the main focus of power is aimed towards people like Kaname Tosen, Gin Ichimaru, Aizen, and only the top 3 Espada.
Yeah.
When I say top 3, I mean Ulquiorra, Yami, and Stark. As written directly by the author, Coyote Stark should be many times faster and stronger than the Vizards, but even he admits he couldn't beat them with a singular attack. And even while hitting them at point blank range with his magnum opus ability, they are able to survive blows from it.
Yeah.
What's weird with the scaling presented by the author is that all which is needed to be classed as a Vasto Lorde Hollow is to reach this humanoid stage that lingers around the power of a captain. Many have this misconception in their head about the idea of Vasto Lorde, that you need to be the level of white when he fought Ulquiorra to be classed as one. But the manga seems to imply that this was never truly the prerequisite to be classed as Vasto Lorde. If you go back and read the introductory chapters to the concept of Vasto Lorde, it directly states that a singular humanoid hollow in size, the strength of a captain, would technically be classed as such. And you can even see a silhouette that looks a lot like Ulquiorra's base form.
Yeah.
And what do you know? he appears on the very next page, along with a direct, shock value moment that aligns with what Toshiro Hitsugaya said. Aizen doesn't have just 10 Vasto Lorde class hollows, he has 20. By this metric too, Grimmjow, who was already on the verge of becoming a Vasto Lorde during his backstory when he was much weaker, would now technically be classed as a Vasto Lorde in his base form, due to him being upgraded by Aizen and having the ability to whoop Ichigo's ass with his bare hands, who was said to be captain level while on the bridge in the Soul Society, didn't have his Bankai yet, and was also incredibly injured. You see, no matter how you spin it, this Ichigo that's fighting Grimmjow easily defeats the Ichigo on the bridge in Bankai.
Yeah.
But Grimmjow slapped him up without even drawing his sword. He was also so injured in that specific battle on the bridge that Yoruichi interrupted the battle, stopped Ichigo, and took him away because she knew that he would die to
he's not going to be able to win.
Fought him there. Also, keep this in mind. Grimmjow has his human-esque looking form with the blue hair, which is what he got after meeting Aizen, which is after the backstory flashbacks we get during his battle with Ichigo, which is exactly like all the upgrades that Baragan and the other Espada received. I feel like that's a bit of a key detail that a lot of people don't really pay attention to, is that these human forms that the Espada have, they didn't just come out of nowhere. The reason that characters like Grimmjow now look like a human and their bodies have changed is because of the upgrades they received from Aizen.
Yeah, Aizen made that
happen.
With
the Hokyoku, he made them go further and further close to Shinigami powers, and that's why the Resurrections, when they release, are basically a mimic version of Shikai and Bankai. Now, I know I've been through this topic I am about to discuss pretty much like 50 million times, but some may argue, well, what about the badge when it comes to that Ichigo? Ichigo was nerfed the entire series, especially when he fought Grimmjow the first time. Well, upon further inspection of the manga, this is not only incredibly overhyped when it comes to Ichigo being quote-unquote nerfed, but this Ichigo still spanks this Ichigo anyway. Ginjo was really vague with his wording, and I kind of take back how much I've hyped up the badge in the past, because he was mostly placing emphasis on the fact that Ichigo was being spied on by the Soul Society to then gauge how he would react to, you know, Ukitake secretly doing this to him. If anything, White was actually messing with his power way more than the badge did. And Zangetsu himself talks about how he was purposefully holding Ichigo's powers back to make sure that he would, you know, stay away from being a Shinigami full-fledged, so... It
had a lot of stuff restricting him, didn't he, the whole time? Mad.
Does seem to more so indicate that White and Zangetsu were doing a bit of tomfoolery a bit more than the badge was. To give you an example as to how much Ichigo's power was being messed with by White in battle, while Ulquiorra was able to slap away one of Urahara's Shikai attacks in his base form with his other hand in his pocket, really just casual, out of the way,
so
type thing. And obviously that Urahara scales far above Ichigo in power. But before this, in Ulquiorra's head, there is a bit of a monologue where Ulquiorra is saying that he can sense Ichigo's power spiking above his own, which was White's power trying to take control of Ichigo. It wouldn't make sense for him to say that about specifically Ichigo, because Ulquiorra is aware that he does have his second release form. He's not saying...
He knows what he can do.
He's actually in his own head. So, a narrative consistency to back what I said, because Ulquiorra was not aware that Ichigo could randomly go into this very overpowered full hollow form, and that's why he is surprised during his battle with Ichigo, where he actually sees this form come out. Even if you argue that Grimmjow's base form isn't Vasto Lorde level, well, if he goes into his Resurrection, his base would be multiplied by 5 to 10 times, making him clearly above baseline captain level. I'm not saying that's my argument, I'm just saying that if you need to go that far, you can simply do that. Grimmjow is still many times stronger than the Ichigo on the bridge, who was injured, and still had spiritual pressure high enough to be classed as captain level. Before he even did any of his Bankai training, by the way. If the Soul Society randomly found Grimmjow in Hueco Mundo, he would be classed as a Vasto Lorde Hollow due to his appearance and spiritual pressure. Furthermore, Ulquiorra's base form competes with a stronger Ichigo after he is healed, meaning his base form would be in that same category of power as Grimmjow's release form. And to our knowledge as viewers and readers, Ardenera is the only non-Vasto Lorde Espada due to his infinite evolutionary capability. The manga and databooks state this also. Hirako Shinji states that while hollified, he thinks that Grimmjow with one arm and injured after having his quick battle with Ichigo and Rukia is actually strong enough for him to go all out with a Seto, an above captain level attack, due to the fact that Shinji is already a captain, and he's in holification, and he states he's going
He did
all
have
out.
the status before
Before
all
this,
the
actually,
the
Grimmjow even
visor
takes
thing,
one
yeah.
of his attacks while off guard, injured, and he's covered in Rukia's ice, and can seemingly keep up with him in battle quite well, while heavily injured and only having one arm. I do want to place emphasis on that. Grimmjow is
Grimmjow's a beast. Let's just, yeah.
also able to react to and respond.
Can't wait to catch up with Bleach 1000 Year Blood War arc. I think I'm gonna wait until it gets to like Grimmjow introduction. That's gonna be hype. That's gonna be so hype.
To Shinji Seto at point blank range while in a very injured state. So injured that he pretty much acknowledges that he's rather done in his fight with Ichigo. Oh, and later on, after being close to death, post his third battle with Ichigo, he takes an off-guard attack from Ulquiorra.
Yeah, it doesn't kill him,
Ulquiorra
right?
is surprised it didn't kill him, showing he didn't hold back and intended to kill him with this strike.
Yeah.
The data books even infer that the majority of the Espada are already Vasto Lorde class, which is clearly a follow-up to the Ardenero statement from the manga. And thus, we have an issue. What if Ulquiorra, who is ranked 2 tiers above Grimmjow by number, what if he were to be sent to Karakura Town by Aizen, with Gin, Tosin, and the other Espada that were there in the normal story, instead of staying back with the army to manage Los Noches for Aizen, to also deal with Ichiro Kenpachi and the other captains like Mayuri, Byakuya, and Unohana? What if Ulquiorra was sent to the Karakura Town War by Aizen?
Ooh, what is?
So, as most of you who are already subscribed to me know, Ulquiorra is really damn strong, and frankly, super misunderstood by many readers. I've covered him enough in previous videos that I don't really need to sit down and
Great video,
resell him
check it
from top to bottom
out.
for 50 more minutes. The fact is, his second release form is ridiculous.
Yeah, he is
so
something
ridiculous
else.
that just a few months ago, the author, Mr. Kubo, confirmed via a Q&A that he actually approves of the battle ability and scaling shown in the intro to Bleach Hellverse.
Ooh.
That's the 4th movie, by the way.
Good
Not
movie.
only did he ignore the initial question of which movie did he like the most out of the 4, but his only focus was on how great that fight was, stating he had watched it many times. By Mr. Kubo saying this actually proves an old argument that I made in my video on Vasto Lorde Ichigo, where I showcased that Mr. Kubo did actually approve of the intro fight to Hellverse,
Yeah, he
and
worked
how
on it,
during
didn't
his weekly chapters, he sometimes couldn't complete them how he desired.
And he
meaning
would have done it
the
that way.
Hellverse adaptation of that battle is how he envisioned
Yeah,
it to
yeah,
be. An interesting thing about the movie version of the fight is how Ulquiorra is shown to be much more physically competitive with White. And Mr. Kubo has said before that when drawing his fights in the manga, he sometimes didn't really get to complete them how he desired, mostly due to the strict time constraints of the weekly Shonen Jump chapters. This is also evident by the extra material we've been getting from him in the anime adaptation of the 1000 Year Blood War anime.
Yeah, and apparently the second lot of episodes is going to have even more like extra stuff as well. And I've not watched the first lot. I'm waiting for more and more to come out, and then because I don't have a Disney Plus account and I want to binge loads, but I'm not going to wait until it's over. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to pick a point. Yeah, I think I might wait till these next episodes and then the third one. But then it's like, I'll check it out at some point.
Thanks to his supervision. He's essentially adding the hypothetical things that he could have added into the manga.
Which is
with
dead
minimal
cool. I
time.
like it. I think that's boss.
The clear narrative purpose of the Segunda Etapa, or second release form, was for the author to give Ulquiorra something that the other Espada did not have, so that he could leap above the other Espada in both rank and power, because, well, the main character needs to have some special opponent to fight, and with a second form that is so strong, he can basically throw nuclear bombs out of his ass all day, along with actually being so damn strong that Uryu thinks his spiritual pressure feels like an ocean above the sky and is described as alien to him,
That's mad,
while
yeah.
also being felt by everyone below the canopy of Los Noches until the very second he dies. In Ulquiorra's first battle with Ichigo, he bluffs and claims that the Espada above him in numbered rank are actually stronger than him to destroy Ichigo's hopes that if he gets past Ulquiorra, who he assumed was the leader of the Espada at that time,
Yeah.
that he will succeed in saving Orihime and leaving Hueco Mundo. When Ulquiorra showcases his second release form, he does so with the purpose of completely destroying Ichigo's morale, because he cannot comprehend...
It's not all about physical defeat. He wants him to just completely defeated everything. Mental, physical,
Ichigo and Orihime's view of having heart and not giving up in the face of adversity. To him, the idea of these weak humans, in his eyes, not giving up even though he is considerably stronger, along with his teammates being considerably stronger than them, he just can't fathom why they haven't given up hope. Ulquiorra was also very frustrated after finding that Grimmjow had revived Ichigo after he killed him, and after Ichigo would not drop his blade while getting the shit whooped out of him in his first release form, he then decided, okay, this Ichigo guy has made me so damn mad that something I've kept a secret from even Lord Aizen, I'm going to reveal it in this battle to absolutely destroy Ichigo's mindset in battle and make him give up. It's actually really impressive how strong Ulquiorra is, because Uryu is indirectly implying he thinks Ulquiorra has spiritual pressure that far surpasses someone like Mayuri and the other captains he witnessed battle in the Soul Society.
Yeah, he's seen them, yeah.
Mayuri himself states that he barely even physically trains, but mostly focuses his time and energy onto his gadgets and poisons which he uses in his battles, showing even time skip Mayuri wouldn't be much stronger in just his spiritual pressure. The author also initially had Ulquiorra visit Karakura Town by himself at the start of the arc, and has Aizen imply Ulquiorra should be on the lookout for 3 specific individuals: Isshin, Yoruichi, and Urahara.
The
funny part is that he doesn't send Ulquiorra there to just die, but to simply check Ichigo's power progression. Sending him there to simply die would mean he wouldn't get a hold of the battle data, which he later uses multiple times, and it would be a waste of an Espada.
Oh yeah.
He sends him there because he has confidence that he can defend himself if he does in fact run into any of those 3.
Yeah, he knows how strong Ulquiorra is, to a point. It's debatable whether he knew about the second release, but he knows that Ulquiorra is definitely able to sort himself out against one of the 3 that's on the list.
Aizen sending his 4th rank Espada as a disposable pawn doesn't really suit his character at all. He usually does things for a specific reason.
Oh, he's very strategic, yeah.
The databooks confirm Ulquiorra gets more missions than any other Espada directly from Aizen himself. In fact, Yami wasn't even meant to go with him, but tagged along anyway. So to put further emphasis on this, Ulquiorra was going to go there
by himself. Wow.
We are then shown that Ulquiorra can casually slap away an attack from Urahara that was meant to fatally wound Yami,
which is
if
insane.
not kill him, who almost killed Yoruichi with a Sera at point blank range. This also further indicates that Urahara was definitely annoyed, because he and Yoruichi are quite close and have a lot of history together. Even the databooks place emphasis that Urahara and Yoruichi were actually at a disadvantage here, and the databooks seem to imply that if this Sera did actually go off, it could have killed Yoruichi. Urahara seems shocked, whereas Ulquiorra slapped it away extremely casually. One of the most underrated feats in Bleach. Base Ulquiorra slapping away Urahara's Shikai attack with one hand in his pocket. Later on, Ulquiorra battles against a form of Ichigo in a battle where he whips out an attack that this form of Ichigo actually dodges, has multiple Sero clashes with this Ichigo, and shocks Uryu once again. And by the way, this form of Ichigo is exactly what Aizen wanted to see in battle, and has waited to see its evolutionary capability since before Ichigo was even born. It's actually the form of Ichigo which Mr. Kubo narratively wanted to battle Shikai Aizen. In the 1000-Year Blood War anime, during the Everything But the Rain flashback episodes, it's even stated that White has the capability to get stronger and stronger after every battle, which means that the version of White that appeared against Ulquiorra is far stronger than the one that fought Isshin, and also stronger than the one that appeared during the training sessions for the Visors. To simply explain just how strong Ulquiorra would be compared to most captains, his first release can stand in front of Ichigo charging up a fully holified Getsuga Tensho, and it can't even penetrate the spiritual pressure that surrounds his body, let alone touching his Hiero. And by the way, this is a completely healed Ichigo, who is stronger than when he fought Release Grimmjow. Don't forget this too, but Yoruichi actually injured herself so badly from just punching Yami that she was shocked at their strength, and in this very battle, Ulquiorra highlighted that a pretty weak variation of Yami couldn't even defend himself correctly with his Pesquisa, and this is why Ichigo cut off his arm so easily. To give you guys the TLDR on what Pesquisa is, well, it's essentially this sensory type power that most of the Espada have, and it allows them to instantly react to attacks that come towards them. It's not really explained that heavily, but that's the general gist of it. Yami then becomes much larger and stronger, which is mostly to do with his actual power itself, but also because he's storing up power from eating and chilling and so on. But
eating and chilling, yes.
Most specifically, Mr. Chad, arguing from the position that the captains trained for the upcoming war wouldn't even mean much either when it comes to scaling towards these characters, because barely any of them scaled to this specific Yoruichi or Urahara in just a straight up to the death battle. And Toshiro was so disappointed in his power throughout that arc that he spent months training to perfect his Bankai. And it wasn't even just Toshiro. It was pretty much every single Shinigami that was involved in the Karakura Town War and stuff to do with Aizen. All of them trained because they were very unhappy with how they performed throughout that arc and their level of power at the time. After Yoruichi explains to Urahara that she actually found Ulquiorra and Yami to be rather strong, Urahara's answer to the Espada's Hierro is to make anti-Hierro armor, which is later shown in the Silver Surfer Aizen battle. I've said this in multiple videos before, but the armor was made in response to Yami and Ulquiorra, not for a battle with Aizen. That's why it didn't even last very long in that battle. Aizen doesn't actually have Hierro. He never went through holification. He specifically does state that to Ichigo. If Shinji fired his stronger Seto at first release Ulquiorra, it wouldn't even touch him. A stronger, healed Grimmjow hit Ulquiorra with a point-blank Zero, and it did more damage to himself than it did to Ulquiorra, showing a huge strength difference in their base forms. I want to emphasize this too. This Grimmjow was also healed, had both of his arms, and according to Grimmjow himself, you can actually get stronger after every battle you partake in, even if it happens within the same day. Grimmjow was severely injured after his fight with Ichigo, and could still parry Shinji's holified Zero with his own. Shinji's best moment in the series too turned out to just be an illusion, and Aizen was messing with him the entire time.
Yeah, mental.
He also did quite well to not get beheaded by Tosin blitzing him.
Yeah, that was close.
People have this misconception that because Shinji is the pseudo-leader of the Vizards and faces Aizen directly, that he is now super, super strong, just by default of, you know, rank as leader versus leader. Mano-y-mano, if you will. Without a doubt, most Bleach fans would agree that his Shikai is insanely hacked. In fact, it's actually so hacked that if you gave that power to Aizen to use, he would be just as effective with Shinji's power as he was with his Kyoka Soigetsu.
Quite possibly,
but Shinji's not a powerhouse by any means. If he fought Grimmjow, especially Grimmjow in his release form, the method of victory would lean towards hacks rather than just his raw power. Ulquiorra later fought an Ichigo that trained, fought him and died, fought multiple other strong opponents, got stronger as confirmed by Grimmjow, mastered holification, and was healed. Retsu Unohana is even in shock when she finds out that Ichigo is actually much stronger than her initial comparison of that to captain level, and he is not even at full power due to his Shihakusho being damaged in his previous battles. If she is impressed by this Ichigo, who would not even be able to defeat first release Ulquiorra, imagine her reaction to second release Ulquiorra if he was standing in front of her. Hearing that might annoy people because we know that Unohana is much stronger later on in the story, but she literally has no reason to lie in her inner monologue that Ichigo cannot hear the contents of. And your blame...
Yeah, she's not going to, like, have an internal lying thought to herself, is she?
...blame should frankly be aimed towards how she was very much so retconned in the war arc, rather heavily, and this is hence the huge change in her attitude during later scenes. Just keep this in mind, by the way, we don't know how strong Ulquiorra's second release multiplier is, and he's narratively fighting Ichigo in his full hollow transformation, so the narrative consistency there isn't actually that crazy. That being said though, Ulquiorra is clearly a special case among the Espada, and if we take his words truthfully that even Aizen doesn't know of his second form, which is also shown as a flashback silhouette that implies Aizen didn't see the battle, or this form specifically, we can say that the level of a threat he would be in Karakura Town is blatantly larger than any of the previous Espada that went there. In the anime and movie variation of the battle with White, Ulquiorra can continuously contest his Zeros and even have moments of success with his Sonic.
Yeah, he gets them every now and then, gets those hits in.
Cut the chains of hell, which Yamamoto claims are impossible to
That's
cut.
uncuttable.
Ulquiorra is relative to this level of power. His durability, while not even defending himself with spiritual pressure, also allows him to survive a point-blank Zero from White. He was basically committing Toaster and Bath via White in this scene. He does specifically say, I'm not even going to defend myself, just go ahead, kill me. Many individuals out there have this weird idea that the power scaling in Bleach works like Dragon Ball, and Urahara from the battle with Aizen would just 1v10 the Espada. And this seriously makes no sense when you look at earlier moments in this arc. Even scaling him to Aizen doesn't make sense because he had help the entire time. He himself said that Aizen's guard wasn't up and he was fighting out of character, and Yamamoto explains that teamwork in battle can greatly amplify battle capability. I mean, Byakuya and Kenpachi fighting second form Yami together shows how much this actually works in battle, considering Byakuya should not scale directly to second form Yami, narratively speaking. And even something simple like putting your other hand on
second
blade can have an increase in power. So yeah, bleach scaling can be pretty funky
Bit
sometimes.
all over the place at times, yeah.
I guess Byakuya getting angry after losing to Ichigo now all of a sudden makes you so strong that you're competing with a character who narratively scales in both the data books and manga above Coyote Stark in his second form. I mean, what? And also Kenpachi did get a pretty big amp confirmed by Unohana. I've sort of said this before in videos, but I feel like it's more so Kenpachi went toe-to-toe with Yami, whereas Byakuya was fighting on the outside and throwing attacks at him to create openings for Kenpachi, but that's just my own headcanon. Yoruichi actually hypes up Ulquiorra and Yami so much that she states that she should have used Shunko against Yami when they initially fought, and was super injured from actually just hitting Yami, like not even taking blows
just
from Yami.
Hitting him.
Yami.
That's
and
mad.
Once more, this is a weaker variation of Yami. And Grimmjow was very confident that he actually could fight Shinji and was about to release his Resurrection, but Ulquiorra interrupted the battle. I should add this too, just to be very clear with you guys. So I don't think that Shinji is a good opponent for Grimmjow because his hacks would make it too hard for Grimmjow to win if they did fight to the death. But it's more to the point of Grimmjow not fearing Shinji's power. That's my main emphasis here. Even if we throw away the Yamamoto statement due to the Hellverse movie having highly debated canonicity in the community, apart from the confirmed White versus Ulquiorra fight that Mr. Kubo oversaw, the fact is, Ulquiorra is ridiculously powerful.
Oh yeah.
I genuinely believe that if he were to go to Karakura Town during the war, he would blitz every single Visored in a one-on-one battle.
Definitely.
Similar to how Tosen did with Shinji, or how Haribal did to Toshiro. In fact, Ulquiorra could easily behead someone like Toshiro, who had major trouble with Haribal's speed, and needed the assistance of both Lisa and Hiyori.
Oh god, yeah, he's got them.
Also along with what I said earlier with him battling a weaker Yami. His fear of Haribal's speed and power was actually so intense that he used his once per fight ice clone to avoid her first attack when she released. That's how scared he was of her power.
God.
Also, it is true that Uryu thinks hollows in Hueco Mundo will have an inherent advantage when they first invade Hueco Mundo, but this is focused on casual hollows potentially now being enemies that they should look out for. It's pretty much like, yo, those normal hollows that we would usually one-shot, they might actually be able to take multiple blows now, so we gotta be careful. According to Yami, he thinks that the only difference between Earth and Hueco Mundo is that he finds the air annoying to breathe. After that statement is made by Uryu, not a single hollow complains about being nerfed in the real world. The reason I bring that up is because I think many people sort of misunderstand that if Ulquiorra was always secretly the strongest Espada, that also means his base form surpasses Haribal's by default. If he concealed his second release form, he's not exactly flexing his base form's full power 24/7 now, is he?
No.
And there's actually two chains of logic here. If Ulquiorra's second Resurrection is indeed a secret that he held from Aizen as he claims, it's so strong that we have no idea how much of an increase the multiplier is for when the transformation increases his power. We only know that normal releases are compared to Bankai by Urahara and implied stronger by Kaname Tosen. But if it's actually known to Aizen, it means that he gave it to Ulquiorra with the Hogoku, and specifically did make him overpowered, just like he did with Wonder Ice, to maximize his potential of eliminating Yamamoto and stealing his sword. It's very possible Aizen planted this form in him and Ulquiorra just assumed that he awakened it of his own will.
Yeah, he might have done it himself.
It's also possible Ulquiorra got Zenkai boost, like Grimmjow did, because he had a battle with Urahara, multiple with Ichigo.
He did have a lot that could potentially just boost him. Like, if you're saying that like every fight gives you like a boost, he's had some interesting fights that should give you some interesting boosts.
And that quick one with Grimmjow. But I personally have always thought that Ulquiorra's base form is clearly very strong because he actually scales so high that he scales in base above Grimmjow's release form. So that in itself is pretty damn strong. I genuinely don't imagine in my head possibility of Haribal in her base form being able to just one hand slap away Urahara's Shikai attack like that. I just don't feel that sort of power from her base form. So if you want to argue that, be my guest. But yeah, it is pretty clear that if Ulquiorra is indeed secretly the strongest by Aizen's doing, or because he kept his second form a secret, then by default his base form does actually scale above hers. Also, don't forget this very key detail, but Ulquiorra actually states in his battle with Ichigo that he could have become stronger too, but he chose to increase his healing capability, whereas most of the other Espada decided on raw power, subsequently sacrificing their regenerative potential. So in truth, when you think about it, we haven't even seen prime full power Ulquiorra.
Yeah.
To get back to what I said though, Both chains of logic here narratively make Ulquiorra disgustingly strong. That being said, I'll put the answer very bluntly to you all as to what would technically happen if he arrived in Karakura town for the war. I had to explain a lot of the prior stuff shown in the video to really put into perspective just how convoluted and hard to follow the Arrancar arc scaling actually is. Otherwise, this video just wouldn't really make a lot of sense to the average Bleach reader that doesn't really understand the scaling to this degree. However, I do know that the majority of you guys who watch my content tend to be pretty damn smart when it comes to Bleach scaling.
Wow, thanks.
So here it goes.
I'll take that.
If Shunsui or Yamamoto do not step in, Ulquiorra will literally nuke the battlefield with his
because it's that powerful.
And will atomize weaker opponents than those two. Especially with his Cero Oscura's technique, which multiplies its power by an order of magnitude when fired. This basically means when he fires it, the power potency multiplies by 5 to 10 times its normal power. Pretty much works like this. If second release Ulquiorra is 100 times his base, the Cero then multiplies that 100 times by 5 to 10 times. So there you go. So we're looking at like a 500 times attack potency power. It's pretty damn crazy. If Shinji is making this claim about Grimmjow when injured, gassed, and has one arm, how would he narratively be able to harm a character who has a base form that scales above healed Grimmjow, stronger by the way, in his release form, and can transform into 2 release forms on top of that, where one of them multiplies his power to a level that Uryu describes as alien to him. He didn't react that way to any of the captains that way. If Ulquiorra is there, Aizen's side would stomp until Yamamoto steps in, who would use his Shikai's transcendent fire to slay Ulquiorra. Shunsui, as shown in the manga, has a Bankai that can slay opponents that are considerably stronger than he is, and is so hacks that Ulquiorra wouldn't even be able to heal from the Execution Strike, along with the other stages of his Bankai like the Incurable Illness. Keep in mind, it was able to harm a character that has complete intangibility and is one with light.
Right, yeah, that's
also
fair.
Immune to Keto-based attacks. It might seem plausible to assume that a similar approach from Hachi and the other captains may work against Ulquiorra with teamwork. However, Ulquiorra's spiritual pressure in his second release far surpasses anything Baragon can do, and he'd be too fast for them anyway. They would simply just have their heads removed in a flash. Earlier in the story too, the Visors were shown to be intimidated by a much weaker version of White during the training for holification,
And that's what
which
Ulquiorra
second
fought
release
against.
Ulquiorra would clearly scale far above, as I pointed out with the way that White evolves after every battle. And with the Grimmjow to Shinji to Ulquiorra scaling, Ulquiorra has a lot of very consistent scaling, and his ability to slap away Urahara's attack, which puts him in a pretty damn high category of power, just in his base and first release, let alone his secret second resurrection. I get asked about this topic a lot on Twitch, and it is frankly a fun one, because if Aizen sent Ulquiorra to Karakura town, it's cool to fantasize as to how it would have actually gone in a hypothetical sense. It would simply be the case that Yamamoto would have to step in like he did against Ion. I feel that yes, Yami, if he was to go to, would be an issue, but Yamamoto is just so damn strong, he would narratively beat them in a 1v2 if that ever happened. And if they somehow surprise Yamamoto, he has his Bankai to lean back on anyway, so there is just no
freaking
reality
hot.
that they actually win. And I want to add just a quick little bit of scaling here for Yamamoto. Yuha claims that his Bankai is so damn overpowered that you would need to be as strong as Yuha to be able to contain his power, so I don't think that they stand any form of a chance in front of that thing. Yamamoto is the only one that Aizen conceded to in power, and I would never argue Aizen is weaker than second release Ulquiorra. If Shunsui is to fight Ulquiorra first, he would win with the release of Bankai, but if he fights Ulquiorra after his battle with Stark, he may be so injured and fatigued that Ulquiorra simply beheads him in a flash.
Could do, yeah.
He could also, by the way, even if they were to just fight themselves one-on-one without any prior fights, could be beheaded by Ulquiorra anyway if he doesn't go Bankai fast enough. Remember, Grimmjow did put emphasis on how Ulquiorra does not mess around when he wants to kill someone. Ulquiorra, especially in his second release, should also be able to combat Shunsui's Shikai quite well due to his speed and Pesquisa, which will allow him to auto-dodge the shadow attacks.
Yeah, it's basically Ultra Instincts, isn't it? Yeah.
Ulquiorra is a major threat to every single one of the good guys in a one-on-one fight. He can easily nuke the battlefield and must be slain by Yamamoto or Bankai Shunsui. The only other character that would be able to interrupt and give Ulquiorra a really good fight too would be Unohana, but she wouldn't actually be present at that stage because I assume that Ichigo would probably still be busy in Hueco Mundo. So there you guys have it. You had a bit of a history lesson on the concept of Vasto Lorde and how absolutely ridiculous and somewhat silly some of the scaling is in the Arrancar arc. But yeah, if Ulquiorra went to Karakura Town, it's honestly quite straightforward. At least it would be cool to see Aizen react to Ulquiorra's hidden release form.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
You didn't actually see it. If you enjoyed this video and you do want more from me, a simple like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and make sure to go check out my video on what if Aizen fought the Zero Division.
Yeah,
if these
sick
what if
video.
videos do well, I will continue to make more, and I'm sure that there's actually some other really cool ones we can do. But
very cool, very cool. Very nice to see Clyde back on the uploads. It's always awesome, interesting takes. Love the power scaling stuff. I need to watch the 1000 Year Blood Arc anime at some point, but like I said, I'll wait. I read the manga, so it's gonna be seeing those different extra scenes supported by Kubo, and so yeah, I hope Clyde carries on in the uploads, and yeah, thank you to no, that's not how my outro goes. Make sure you check out my Etsy shop, links in the description. T-shirts and hoodies that I've designed are there to be purchased, and thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is the last put challenge. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys for that. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know I should watch some future videos. I'll see you guys all next time. Bye.